My name is Clara Benson. I'm 34 years old, and I'm the fiercely protective single mother of my 7-year-old daughter, Isla. Every year, we're expected to attend my mother's grand family gathering, an event that has somehow become more about appearances than love. This year, I told myself it would be different. I was wrong. Halfway through dinner, I realized Isla had been gone too long. At first, I thought she might be playing hide and seek with her cousins, but when I went upstairs, I found her sobbing in the bathroom, her long golden hair completely shaved off. Standing beside her was my sister Sabrina, filming it all and laughing. "It's just a joke," she smirked. That moment changed everything. Something inside me, the quiet, forgiving part, broke completely. If you've ever had to protect your child from the people who were supposed to love them, you'll understand what came next. Being a single mother to Isla has been both my strength and my struggle since my divorce from Ethan 5 years ago. He was charming once, the kind of man who could make anyone believe he had it all together. But charm fades quickly when it's not backed by loyalty. After our separation, his visits grew infrequent, his calls shorter, his excuses endless. Still, Isla and I made our own world, a small apartment filled with art, laughter, and the smell of home-cooked meals. Isla is a gentle soul, the kind who sees beauty in the smallest things, the swirl of cream in hot chocolate, the flutter of a butterfly's wings. Her hair, though, that was her pride. She'd been growing it since she was 3, brushing it every night as we talked about her dreams of being a ballet dancer. "My hair is part of my magic," she used to say, twirling it around her fingers as if casting invisible spells. My sister Sabrina, 3 years younger than me at 31, has always been complicated. She lived her life in extremes, the center of attention, the queen of drama, the one who always needed to outshine me. Growing up, she mimicked everything I did, but twisted it just enough to sting. If I wore a certain hairstyle, she'd copy it and tell everyone she'd done it better. If I brought home a boyfriend, she'd flirt with him just to prove she could. At 16, she accidentally ruined my prom dress the night before the dance. At 20, she spread lies that broke up my college relationship. Even at my wedding, she spilled red wine on my dress, all smiles as she claimed it was an accident. Our mother, Elaine, always defended her. "Oh, Clara, don't be so sensitive. Sabrina just wants to have fun. You know how she is." Our father, Robert, would simply retreat to his study, pretending none of it was happening. That silence became the soundtrack of my childhood, my mother's excuses and my father's avoidance. As Isla grew, I became more hesitant about family gatherings, but Elaine guilted me every time. "Family is family," she'd say. "You can't keep Isla away from her cousins." So I went, for Isla's sake, not theirs. The night before the gathering, Ela and I sat on her bed, a rainbow of hair ties and brushes spread around us. "Mommy, can you braid it like the picture?" she asked, holding up a magazine. I smiled. "Of course, sweetheart." For nearly an hour, I wove her long golden hair into intricate braids. She watched in the mirror, eyes wide with excitement. "Do you think Aunt Sabrina will like it too?" she asked innocently. I hesitated. "I'm sure everyone will think you look beautiful." I didn't have the heart to tell her that Sabrina only liked things she could ruin. "Remember," I added softly, "if anyone says or does something that makes you uncomfortable, you come straight to me, okay?" "Okay, Mommy," she said with a grin, "but I think it'll be fun this time." I kissed her forehead, hoping, praying she was right. The next day was bright and deceptively peaceful. As I drove to my parents' house, Isla sang along to the radio, swinging her braids like ribbons. Elaine and Robert still lived in the same colonial house I'd grown up in. White shutters, red brick, the same creaking porch swing. By the time we arrived, the driveway was packed with cars. Elaine loved her theatrics, banners, balloons, coordinated table settings. "Grandpa!" Isla squealed the moment she saw Robert at the grill. He turned, his weathered face breaking into a rare smile. "There's my sunshine," he said, scooping her up. "Look at you. Your mom did those braids?" Isla nodded proudly. "It took a whole hour." "Well worth it," he said warmly. Inside, my mother was orchestrating chaos in her designer apron. "Clara," she greeted coolly, "you're late." "It's 12:15, Mom. You said noon." She gave a tight smile. Sabrina texted, "She and Derek will be late. Important business call, you know." Of course. Sabrina never arrived quietly. She had to make an entrance. I spent the next hour making small talk with relatives I barely knew. Isla played with her cousins, Jack and Ava, ages 9 and 6, while my Aunt Teresa kept me company. "You look tired," she said gently. "You okay?" I smiled faintly. "I'm fine. Just family," she chuckled. "Say no more." At around 1:30, the front door burst open. "The party can officially start." Sabrina's voice rang out like a trumpet. She swept in wearing designer jeans and a silk blouse, her hair perfectly curled. Her husband, Derek, trailed behind her, looking exhausted. "Clara," she sang, air-kissing me. "Love the dress? Is it new?" "Hi, Sabrina," I replied evenly. "Hi, Derek." Mom swooped in instantly, gushing about the expensive cake Sabrina had brought. "Isn't she thoughtful?" I bit my tongue. Then Sabrina's eyes landed on Isla. "Oh, look at this little princess," she said, kneeling down. "Wow, that's elaborate. Someone wanted attention today." I stiffened. "She's proud of her hair. She helped design the braids." Sabrina's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Well, enjoy it while it lasts, sweetheart. Kids grow up fast." Her tone made my skin crawl. A few minutes later, Isla asked if she could go upstairs with Jack and Ava. "They want to show me a new game," she said excitedly. I hesitated. Something in my gut whispered no, but I didn't want to smother her. "Okay," I said softly. "Just be careful, honey." As she skipped away, Sabrina's eyes followed her. That same calculating look I'd seen 100 times before. For the next half hour, I tried to focus on conversation, but something felt wrong. The noise from upstairs was too quiet. Normally, family gatherings were a storm of laughter, thumping footsteps, and chaos. But now, nothing. Then my Aunt Teresa mentioned something that made my blood run cold. "Did you see what Sabrina bought yesterday? Hair clippers. Said she wanted to give Derek a haircut to save money. Odd, right? That woman spends thousands on handbags." Hair clippers. I froze mid-step. My heart pounded as I rose from the table, my eyes darting toward the staircase. "I'm going to check on Isla," I said quickly. When I passed Derek in the hallway, he wouldn't meet my gaze. His hand trembled slightly around his beer. That's when I knew something was terribly wrong. I climbed the stairs, every creak beneath my feet sounding like a warning. From behind one closed door, I heard faint sniffles. Then, a broken sob. My blood turned to ice. "Isla?" I whispered, knocking softly. The sobs stopped. "Go away," came her tiny, trembling voice. My heart shattered. "Sweetheart, it's Mommy. Please open the door." "No," she cried, "I don't want you to see." I felt a cold fury rise inside me, and then, behind me, a voice. "What's the matter, Clara?" Sabrina, her phone in her hand. That smug, poisonous smile. My heart dropped. "Where's my daughter?" I demanded. "Oh, she's fine," Sabrina said with mock innocence. "Just got a little haircut." Her words hit like a slap. I reached for the doorknob, and when I opened it, my world fell apart. When the door opened, time seemed to freeze. The air left my lungs. My knees nearly gave out. There, in the middle of the bathroom, stood my daughter, my sweet, gentle Isla, trembling, red-eyed, and unrecognizable. Her head was completely shaved. The floor was littered with clumps of her golden hair, strands tangled together like pieces of a destroyed memory. She looked up at me, tears streaking her small face. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't want her to." Before she could finish, a strangled sob tore through her. I rushed forward, dropping to my knees, pulling her into my arms. She clung to me, shaking, her little fingers clutching my shirt like she was afraid I'd disappear. Behind me, Sabrina's voice cut through the air, sharp, smug, and dripping with poison. "Oh, for God's sake, Clara, don't be so dramatic. It's just hair. It'll grow back." I turned slowly, my body trembling, my arms still wrapped around Isla. Sabrina stood there with her phone raised, recording us. Recording her niece's humiliation as if it were entertainment. "You did this?" I asked quietly. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was low, cold, almost unrecognizable. Sabrina smirked. "Don't act like it's the end of the world. She needed to learn not to be so vain. Everyone's always fawning over her perfect little hair. I just thought I'd humble her a bit." "She's 7, I said through clenched teeth. You held down a child and shaved her head. That's not a lesson, Sabrina. That's cruelty. Oh, lighten up, she scoffed, waving her hand. Zach and Ava helped. They thought it was funny. My heart dropped. You made the other kids do this? It was just a prank, she said with mock innocence. You know, like old times. Old times. The same phrase my mother used whenever she justified Sabrina's cruelty. Just like old times. As if that made it nostalgic instead of abusive. At that moment, I heard a shuffle behind me. My father, Robert, stood frozen in the doorway, his face pale. Good Lord, he muttered, taking in the sight. The hair scattered across the floor, my sobbing child, my shaking hands. What have you done? Sabrina rolled her eyes. Oh, Dad, please. It's hair, not a crime. My father's voice was quiet but shaking. You think humiliating a child is funny? It was just a joke, she said again. That same infuriating tone she'd used all our lives, the one that always got her out of trouble. Then my mother appeared, drawn by the commotion. What's all this shouting about? Dinner's getting cold. I stood slowly, still holding Isla close. Look at what your daughter did. I turned so she could see. For the first time, my mother's face registered something like shock. Oh my, she breathed. Well, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate? My voice broke. She's terrified. She's traumatized. She'll be fine, my mother said briskly, recovering too quickly. It's just hair, Clara. You always overreact to everything. I stared at her, speechless. My child's hair lay scattered around her feet, and my mother was worried about the roast getting cold. Isla whimpered softly in my arms. I want to go home. We're leaving, I said. Oh, come on, Sabrina laughed. You're seriously going to ruin the whole day over this? It's not like I burned her alive. My father turned on her sharply. Enough, he barked, startling everyone. I had never heard him raise his voice like that before. You've gone too far this time. Sabrina shrugged. You all act like I murdered someone. You know what? Fine. Maybe she'll learn not to be so sensitive. I felt something inside me snap. It wasn't just anger. It was years of swallowed words, of biting my tongue, of forgiving cruelty because she's family. No more. I handed Isla to my Aunt Teresa, who had just come running up the stairs, her hand over her mouth in horror. Please take her downstairs. Get her some water. Teresa nodded, her eyes wet. Of course. When Isla was safely out of sight, I turned back to Sabrina. She was still holding her phone up, still recording. This is gold, she said, chuckling. You should see your face right now, I lunged. In one swift motion, I snatched the phone from her hand and threw it hard against the wall. It shattered on impact, the screen splintering into a web of cracks before clattering to the floor. Sabrina gasped. What the hell, Clara? I stepped closer, my voice trembling with fury. You think this is a game? You recorded my child being held down and assaulted. For what? Likes? Attention? Her smugness wavered for a moment. Don't be ridiculous. It's just a prank video. Say that word again, I warned, my voice low. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Listen to me very carefully, I said. You will delete every photo, every video. You will apologize to my daughter. And if you ever come near her again, I will make sure you never get another job, another ounce of respect, another moment of peace. Sabrina laughed, unnervously this time. Oh, please, you don't have the guts. That made me smile, just a little. The kind of smile that scared even me. You've spent your whole life underestimating me, Sabrina. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Before she could answer, I walked past her and down the stairs. The entire family had gathered in the living room, whispering. My mother was wringing her hands, muttering something about family matters. My father looked like he wanted to disappear. Aunt Teresa sat beside Isla, stroking her back while my little girl hid her face against her lap. When I appeared, every head turned. My mother stood, forcing a brittle smile. Clara, please don't make a scene. It's been handled. Handled? I repeated quietly. You mean ignored. Like always. Clara, this isn't the time. No, Mom, I cut her off. This is exactly the time. Because if I leave here without saying this, You'll twist it into another story where I'm the dramatic one. My voice rose, trembling but strong. You've spent your whole life protecting her, excusing her. Every lie, every cruel stunt, every time she hurt someone, you called it a joke. You let her grow into this. Sabrina came down the stairs, smirking. Are you seriously giving a speech right now? Shut up, I snapped, the room going dead silent. You think this is about hair? You think this is funny? My daughter trusted you. She looked up to you, and you humiliated her. On camera. I turned to my mother. If you defend her one more time, I swear you'll never see Isla or me again. My mother's lips parted, but no sound came. Sabrina scoffed. Oh, please, you're not going anywhere. You need this family. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something cold settle inside me. No, Sabrina, I don't need you, but you're going to need me soon. The silence that followed was suffocating. I picked up Isla, her little body still trembling, and headed for the door. Aunt Teresa tried to stop me. Clara, maybe just take a breath. I've been holding my breath for 30 years, I said quietly. It's time I exhaled. I walked out of that house without looking back. The drive home was quiet. Isla fell asleep halfway, her head resting on my lap, small hiccups of tears escaping even in her dreams. I kept one hand on the wheel and the other gently brushing the fine stubble that now covered her scalp. By the time we reached home, I'd made up my mind. Sabrina thought she could humiliate my child for fun. She thought, like always, that I'd cry, forgive, and move on. But this time, I wasn't just a sister, I was a mother. And mothers don't forgive monsters, they destroy them. I drove away from that house with my jaw clenched and my hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The rage that had surged through me upstairs was steady now, a cold, precise thing. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I knew how I would do it without becoming the sort of person I despised. At home, I made Isla grilled cheese and held her while she ate. She sat small and fragile on the couch, the towel off her shoulders, little stubs of hair catching the late light like sad, dull sunbeams. Aunt Teresa came over within the hour with an emergency kit, soft hats, a tiny stuffed rabbit for Isla, and sat with us while I called my sister to demand the videos be deleted. Of course, Sabrina didn't answer. Of course. When the phone finally buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize, it was Sabrina, smug and brief. You gonna chill, or are we going to make this a show? Delete your threats, Clara. I stared at the message until my phone felt hot in my hand. Then I did 3 things. First, I documented. Photos of Isla's head, the clumps of hair, timestamps, screenshots of the family chat where the video had been uploaded and liked by half the relatives, and Aunt Teresa's witness notes. I saved every shred of proof. I printed out copies and put them in a folder labeled Evidence, Sabrina. Not because I wanted a fight, but because I needed to show, with cold clarity, what had been done to my child. Second, I called a lawyer. I wanted to know my rights and the limits of what the law could do. Assault, harassment, distribution of images of a minor without consent. These were not just emotional wounds, they were legal wounds too. The lawyer's voice on the phone was efficient and certain. We'll file a police report. We'll demand the removal of the video from all platforms. If necessary, we'll pursue restraining orders. Her tone steadied me in a way my fury hadn't. Third, I turned the social wave toward justice, not vengeance. I could have posted the video and watched the internet devour her, but I wanted control and accountability, not mob chaos. I contacted the family group admins and demanded the video's removal. I contacted the platforms directly, filed abuse and harassment reports, highlighting that a minor had been filmed being assaulted, and sent copies of the reports to my lawyer. I requested that every family member who had liked or commented be notified that the clip was being removed and that I expected cooperation. I wasn't playing for spectacle, I was building a record. I slept badly that night, Isla curled against me, a small burr of courage and pain. In the morning, the first police officer arrived, kindly, solemn. He took statements while Isla clutched her stuffed rabbit and nodded bravely. A detective followed, a woman who seemed to understand that children survive on small mercies. She took photos, her hands steady. We'll take care of this, she promised. I wanted to believe her the way a child believes a parent's promise without condition. I made the detective promise to keep me apprised. She did. Sabrina, predictably, posted a new video, a laughing montage of behind the scenes from family gatherings, edited to make her look clever and merciful. Her comments were cruelly witty. But by then the platforms were moving faster than the first shockwave. The videos were flagged, reviewers assessed them, and the family group chat's admin, one of my cousins who'd been quietly furious at the whole thing, removed the clip and blocked Sabrina's account from posting further. My cousin had a backbone I hadn't known he possessed, and I sent him a text that said simply, "Thank you." He replied, "About time." Sorry it took a head shaving to do it. The lawyer filed a formal complaint, and the police took Sabrina's statement that afternoon. She was smug at first, then nervous, then defensive. "It was a prank," she repeated to them like a scratched record. But the detective showed them the messages, the photos, Aunt Teresa's witness statement, and my mother's passive insistence that the family rally round. The detective's eyes lingered on the way my mother's apology was more for the roast than for my daughter, and I watched the color drain from Elaine's cheeks in a way that made me think the world had shifted beneath her feet. Word traveled through the family slowly, then with inexorable speed. People who had laughed in the hallway now avoided my gaze. My mother tried at first to mollify me with talks of family and forgiveness. I listened to her speak the way you listen to a radio playing in another room, distant, irrelevant. When she suggested that I accept Sabrina's sorry on camera for the sake of unity, something inside me snapped again. A harder thing this time. "No," I said. "There is no unity built on humiliation." Sabrina lost her job within 10 days. Her company had seen the clip. They'd seen the investigation notice. She blamed me, of course. She sent texts that alternated between pleading and threats. "You ruined me," she wrote once, then later, "You had to humiliate me back?" Low, Clara. Low. But what I did wasn't humiliation. It was consequence. She'd spent years weaponizing charm and laughter to cover a mean streak that hurt others. This time the mirror fell and she could not pretend the reflection was applause. A restraining order followed shortly after. The judge listened, patient and formal, as I spoke of a child's trust shattered and a family's enabling silence. The legal language was sterile, but it carried weight. The order forbade Sabrina from contacting me or Isla, and it limited her proximity to our home and Isla's school. It felt like a line drawn in concrete, protective, immovable. I also did something else that surprised even me. I wrote an honest, calm letter to the entire family. I did not rant or accuse beyond the facts. I described what had happened, how I had reacted, and what I expected. Accountability, therapy for Sabrina, and true apologies. I said that my door was closed until there was real change. I asked that anyone who had cheered at the clip consider how they would act if it were their child. The letter was short and firm. I sent it, and then for the first time that month, I breathed. The weeks that followed were a strange tide. Friends rallied. Aunt Teresa came by with casseroles. Some relatives reached out with shame and quiet apologies. Others were silent. My mother, bruised and bitter, oscillated between regret and armor. She said things like, "I didn't know how far she would take it." And I knew what she meant. She didn't know because she'd refused to see. Refusal is its own form of violence. Isla healed slowly, mostly in private. We cut her hair short into a soft bob, something practical and pretty. She chose a small purple hat with a unicorn on it and wore it like a crown. At night, she would press her head against my chest and say, "My hair will grow back, Mommy." I'd stroke the soft stubble on her head and say, "It will, and you'll still be magic." Sabrina called once through a lawyer. Her voice was raw. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean—" The restraining order forbade me from speaking to her directly. I listened, and somewhere in the broken syllables I heard the hollow center of someone who'd never been held to account. But apology without change is a paper armor, and I wanted steel. Months later, there were quieter consequences. Sabrina's friends distanced themselves. Some colleagues who'd laughed exchanged guarded glances when she walked past. Elaine began seeing a counselor after a family member, one who had been quietly appalled, told her, without malice, that she deserved to grieve the daughter she'd enabled and then learn how to be a better mother. My father, for once, stopped shrinking away. He showed up at the hearings and at Isla's little recital 3 months later, clapping as if he meant it. He met my eyes and nodded, and it felt like the smallest, truest reconciliation his silence had ever allowed. In the end, the power I'd summoned was not spectacular. There were no dramatic takedowns on social media, no viral revenge spectacles. There was instead a steady use of the law, of documentation, and of a refusal to let a monster hide behind a laugh. That steadiness dismantled the enabling structures, the jokes, the minimizations, the "it's just family" defenses that had let Sabrina think she was untouchable. At home, Isla learned how to braid hair by herself. She learned 1,000 small reclaimings, to answer bullies with silence, to tell an adult when she felt unsafe, to choose friends who built her.